An error occurred.
It says live on my end.
Yeah, we're live. Hey, all right, we are live for the real 50 over 50. Welcome back if you're here live or if you're here on the replay. And today we have the wonderful Tina Forsyth with us. So I'm just going to give you a little background around Tina. Oh, goodness. Okay. All right. Well, we're on Facebook because it was canceled on LinkedIn. I don't know why it did that. But
Ah, how dare it?
we're not
Technology. We're having
we're not gonna
tech
fix it
troubles
live.
today.
We're just gonna go. And all right. So all right. Sorry about that, but we're on Facebook. So anyway, we have Tina Forsyth with us, and Tina and I go way back, maybe 10, 11, 12 years.
Probably even like 15-ish, give or take. I think it's been,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a
Yeah,
while for sure.
it's been a while. Oh, now we're back on LinkedIn again. Huh, look at
Hi,
that.
LinkedIn.
I like them. Okay. The tech gremlins are with us today, so stand by. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Anyway, Tina is somebody that I learned about when she was first creating her online business manager certification program. And I remember sitting on my couch until like some god awful hour of the morning with my finger on the button going, I'm going to become an OBM. I'm going to become an OBM. And I never pressed the button because I never wanted to be an OBM.
Oh, that I
but I
didn't know
love,
that, Donna. That's interesting. Yeah, I could
but I
see
love,
where you might have you might have felt like I could do this, but yeah, I would
mhm.
agree with you. That's not
Yeah,
your path.
yeah. It's not
Yeah.
my path, but I loved everything that Tina did. And then I went to an event not long after that, and she was there. And I was like, the clouds have parted and this woman that I've like wanted to meet is here.
Awesome.
And that was a really long time ago, and we've done all kinds of things together over the years. But let me tell you who she is. She is a pioneer in online business and founded the Institute of the Association of Online Business Managers. She coined the phrase. This was not a thing before Tina Forsyth. So she started that whole trend, and she has certified. I can't even, do you know how many people you've certified?
It's over 1,000 at this point. I don't know the
Mhm.
exact number offhand, but especially now with our trainers and such too,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
expanded quite a bit. Yeah.
So that's quite a ripple effect of making an impact in online businesses and making sure that they are well organized and well systematized and taking the CEO out of the day-to-day operations, which I know is something that's always been very important to you.
Yeah.
So, all right, I started. You take off.
Yeah. It's like, keep going, keep going.
I need
Um,
to cool down from the tech issues.
Yeah, I still have, and so I started the OBM certification back in 2009. So when you were saying that you were like finger was hovering over the button, that probably would have been
Yeah,
2009 because that's
yeah,
when we started it, which is like 14 years ago now. That's
yeah.
so
It's a long
strange to think
time.
about. But yeah, continue to our association and our certification continues to run. I have trainers, licensed trainers now who teach the training alongside the association. And then I also do a lot of work with folks around. I mean, I love helping people create certifications. That's one of my favorite things to do, which kind of was a natural outflow, or whatever the word would be, from the fact that I've created a certification. And I would say I probably made every mistake you can make in a certification at this point and figured out how to overcome them in those 14 years. But also to really just a passion for CEOs, for business owners, mostly women who I tend to work with, to just really be able to create a business that serves them, and allows them to do the best work that they want to do. And also that allows them to have a team and to work with a team that where they also get to do their best work, and we come together in doing all of that. I don't think I told you this, Donna, that I'm writing a book right now on team
Mm,
that's going to be
cool.
called Together, either Together or
Oh,
Better Together. We haven't decided yet, and that's all about, just the power of coming together to build
mhm.
these businesses.
Well, I have to say in the last year where I kind of redesigned everything that I'm doing, the one thing that was consistent throughout was I don't want to work alone anymore.
Totally.
And then, like, we've got 52 people up in this 50 over 50 visibility project, and I've gone through everybody's completed questionnaires, and that's consistent across the board.
Yeah.
They Nobody wants to do this alone.
Alone
And
is overrated. Like
yeah.
it's and I feel, when we're talking about this idea of being 50, being over 50, I'm freshly 50. I just turned 50 in February. um, that it really is overrated. Like you said, it's overrated to do it alone, but it's also just like, no thanks. I feel like part of one of the things that's shifted for me, and I've actually been in this space for a number of years now, but hadn't allowed myself to relax into it, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. Where, because I have great support in my business, I have great, team in my business, I have great people that I work with. Things are structured in a way where honestly, it doesn't require a lot of me to show up day to day, like even time, effort, etc. Like I call myself a little bit retired-ish in some ways, because I'm not
Ooh.
having to be like full 9 to 5, full time, etc. in my business at this
Mhm.
point. And honestly, that's been true for a number of years now, but I didn't let myself kind of enjoy it. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, I still gotta be, I gotta be
Mhm.
hustling. I gotta be
Yeah.
this, I gotta be that. And in particular in our online space, those of us that are in the online space, I mean, which is probably everybody at this point to some
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah, whoever
We're,
wasn't was dragged in
yeah.
involuntarily 3 years ago.
Yeah, but just there is this whole thing about, you got to grow and you got to whatever and you got to build an empire and you got to
Mhm.
do all
Yeah.
this stuff. And if that's our path, great, go to
Mhm.
town. But there's also this idea of, wait a minute, like, I really think that's one of the things that kind of hit home for me when I turned 50 in February was, so my mom passed away in January. That was a pretty milestone thing to happen. She had been ill leading up to that, so it wasn't unexpected. My dad's been gone for a number of years already, so I don't have like parents that I'm going to need to take care of and et cetera and all of that at this point. Um, and
Yeah,
my kids are now 15 and 17.
so they don't need as
Because
much
your
as you.
your
Yeah.
son's like adult age and such too.
Yeah.
I'm coming into this phase of like, oh, my kids aren't going to need me quite as
Mhm.
much. And that was something. And then also turning 50 in February, it was like, well, wait a minute, like, what do I really want things to
Mhm.
look like now? And what if, because I'd said for years, like, I don't think I would ever retire. I've said that for a really long time.
Mhm.
And I know, a lot of business owners, I know a lot of folks, that you and I know, and colleagues and people that have their own business or have created their own livelihood, they'll say similar things like, I really love my work and I'm never going to retire and I can't imagine retiring and all of that. Um, but it's like I get that. And at the same time, I'm a little bit like, yeah, maybe I don't want to work
Yeah.
as hard or in
Well,
the same way that I
yeah, well,
did
you get to decide
before.
now, and, like, you've done that already, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now it's like, what else can I do? And, um, you know, one of the things that I realized in my year of reinvention
Yeah.
was that, I didn't have to burn the whole thing down.
Ooh, yes. Yeah. That's actually such a key thing,
Yeah.
because it is to this idea of being able to look at, and I think this can apply whether you're a business owner or not, but
Mhm.
in particular for those of us who are business owners, it's even if we want to make a change, let's say we don't want to be working as hard or
Mhm.
as much as we have been working, or we don't want to keep doing it all on our own. I do a fair bit of work with folks around team, in particular around team from the perspective of even like, oh, I've got people on my team, I've got people helping me, but I'm still carrying the weight
Yeah.
of everything on my shoulders, which is a very common experience for business owners, a very common experience, I think, for women in business
Yeah.
too. I can't speak to the men per se. I think it
Well,
certainly
and
can be there too.
we're kind of ingrained to carry that weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I
I
think when
watched, I watched this TikTok video yesterday, some random thing, and the guy was talking about how um I think he was talking about men, or what is it? If women are single, they live longer. If men are single, they live shorter. And I don't know how true that is or not, right? Like this was TikTok. Who knows? It could have been somebody could have just been making it up. But part of what he said is like part of why women will have shorter lifespans when they're married or partnered is because they're always thinking about everybody around them,
yeah, yeah,
right? Whereas if we're single, then we're not having to do that in the same way. And I thought that was such a fascinating thing. I'm like, oh, I could see that. I could
mhm,
see that being the case. And it happens in business too for a lot of us, like myself as well, even though my business has been structured to
mhm,
pretty much run without me for 3, 4-ish years now in a lot of ways. There's a big part of me, and I'm still unraveling this a bit. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm magically in this space in the moment because I'm still unraveling it. But this part of me in my mind was like, but I'm still here. I got to be here. I got to show up. I still got to log on. I still got to whatever. Boom, boom, boom. And it's like, do I like?
mm,
And is that the life I want to keep on leading? Like, especially reaching a milestone like 50. It's like, well, what if I can be, retired-ish for
mhm.
now? Because I don't want to retire. I also can't retire at this point, like financially and stuff.
Yeah,
There's
you've got
always,
2 girls going to college.
yeah, there's going to college and whatever, there's a period of time before that could happen as well. But it's just, oh, what if this could be retire-ish
Yeah,
at this point?
so
And
what does that look like to you?
yeah, what does that look like? I mean, honestly, for me, there's been a little bit more of starting to enjoy things outside of my home, like outside of being, raising kids and having my business, because
Mhm,
those two things have been my main focus. I mean, my kids have been my main focus for 17-ish years, give or take.
mhm,
Samantha's 17 now. But in particular, for the past 10 years since I got divorced, it really has been like the main focus because
yeah,
their dad doesn't live in the same city and
yeah,
so on, right?
and
So
it's a lot of work.
I know you understand.
I
Yes, you
get it.
understand when you're a single parent
And
on top of
honestly, you don't
it.
realize how much you've done until they leave.
Well, and it's even at this point with them, it's kind of like, hey, I don't have to always be aware of where they are
Mhm,
now. They're old enough to kind of be on their own. And it's really been like, what do I want my life to look like outside of those two things? Like, okay, I've got my home life with the kids, etc., and I've got my business. I mean, even it might sound silly in some ways, but I'm like, my sister and I are taking golf lessons. And like, I've never golfed in my life. I don't know if I like it. I mean, I
mhm,
actually like it so far. I've had 3 lessons. We'll
mhm,
see. Maybe I'll change my mind. But even things like that where I'm like,
yeah,
"Oh, what if, you
because there was
know,
never space for that before.
there really wasn't." And
Unless
but I also didn't allow myself
no, because
to
there was
have
too many
space
other
for
things.
that.
You would have had to have, like, a 2 AM golf lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even just like, if like I could have been doing some of this stuff
Mhm,
over the past few years, but didn't, right? Because even though I have my own business pretty much running without me, my own mindset was like, I still have to be 9 to 5 and I got to be here Monday to Friday. And
yeah.
do I? No,
No, no.
because I've been thinking, Donna, even over the past week, I'm like, I wonder, I might start taking like Wednesdays off
Mhm,
in the week. And not to say I'll never do anything on a Wednesday, but I'm kind of like, what if that would be, I might do that and then could go do things like maybe I'll go
mhm,
golf on a Wednesday
yeah,
morning, or something like that. So I've really started to think that way with things, like, um, and again, it even sounds a little funny, but I'm like, I've lived in this house 17 years. I have this great big yard. I have all kinds of stuff out there. I'm like, but I never enjoy my backyard.
mhm,
And I'm in the process of getting some updates done. We need to get some work done on the deck and stuff like
mhm.
that. Uh, my daughter last year took an X-Acto knife. She was like, I want to cut out this cardboard thing to hang on my wall. And she had an X-Acto knife. And I'm like, make sure you do it outside, right? Don't do that in the house. I don't want you cutting up my carpet. Well, she went out on the deck and just cut the whole deck up instead. So I was like, oh, I wasn't specific enough. Go on the grass. not on my deck. So I'm getting all that to say, I'm getting my deck redone right now and all of that. But even through that process, I'm like, wait a minute, like, what if I just start enjoying my backyard
Yeah.
more?
I know,
You
and
know,
it's so silly when you step back and think
it,
about it,
yeah, it kind
that,
of is.
it doesn't even occur to us to do this,
No.
and, like, I've been looking longingly at, like, pottery videos on
Yes.
Instagram. Like,
The other,
I wanna go do pottery.
oh, that would be fun. Oh, if you and I lived in the same city, I would totally go do that with you. I think it would be fun. Except I
Yeah,
think my nails are too long. I
well,
have a feeling my nails are too long.
yeah, they are.
Maybe they can give me stubby gloves or
Stubby
something to do it.
gloves.
Um, I've also, like, this year, over the past year, I started doing puzzles again. Like, and again, it's such an odd thing in a way, but I'm like, that's my favorite thing
Yeah.
now is I get up in the morning and I take the dogs out for their walk and then I work on my puzzle. And then I, whatever, I'm doing like a puzzle a week, 1 or 2 puzzles a week at this point. Like,
I saw an Instagram video a couple of weeks ago, and it said that, how uncanny it is that women don't know a pigeon from a bluebird
yeah.
until they're in their 50s, and then they know every bird.
Yes. Yes. Seriously though, even that, like going out in the, because it's springtime here now, and it's just been in the past couple of weeks. There's a lake behind my house, like just in our neighborhood, that I walk the dogs around in the morning. And so you go, you just start to see all these birds. I mean, of
Mhm,
course, you get the Canada geese. Anybody
mhm.
in Canada knows they're vicious. So you stay away from
They
them.
they are here too. They are here
They
too.
are there too. Yeah.
Well, they're the
They're
Canadian geese.
vicious.
They like it around here.
Yeah. Yeah. When the Canada goose shows up, it's like,
Yeah,
stay away.
they're
But like
they're
there's ducks and there's blackbirds and like all these things. But again, because my sister is a wildlife photographer, you and I were talking about that
yeah,
before we went live. She did this raven picture back here. It's kind of fun to be with her too, because she
mhm.
knows what the
She
birds are.
knows, yeah,
Yeah. And she'll
yeah,
see things that I don't see, which even that's interesting. It's like we're both walking along
mhm,
together and she's
yeah,
got an eye for like, oh, I notice this stuff. And so, yeah, there
yeah,
is something about that, which I would put in kind of that retire-ish
mhm.
category. I certainly don't think a person needs to be 50 before they do this, but I
No,
think there also is something about this age where it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, it's almost like what's in it for me now
yeah, like,
at another level.
I've been telling my son for years, "I'm really sorry, but you are the last person on a very long line of people that require too much from me. So this is what you get. This is what's left."
Oh, that's like, at what age did that happen though? Like, what age was he at when that shifted?
Um, it wasn't really so much about him, it was about me. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been taking care of people since I'm 5.
Yes.
So I'm tired and, like, I believe you have lifetime quotas of certain things.
Mm,
And I feel like
yeah.
I've reached my lifetime quota of taking care of things.
Yeah.
And, I love him. I'm here for him. I will do anything for him, but use my energy wisely.
Yeah.
My message.
Yeah. Seriously.
Like, I don't have it in me to go through another set of toddler years. I just don't.
Gosh, I could never. And it's kind of funny. Both my kids are at this stage in the game. They could change their minds, but both my kids are like, I don't want to have kids.
Mhm.
I don't want to have kids. I'm like, fine by me.
Yeah.
And people are like, but don't you want grandbabies? I'm like, no. I mean, if I have them, yes, I'll want,
Yeah.
I'll be happy about that. But I'm like, no,
Mm. Yeah.
like
It's not
that's
a
just work.
requirement.
That
Well,
just
but I
sounds
mean,
like a lot of work.
good for them. I mean, for knowing that they want to do this or not do this. It's all
Yeah.
encompassing to have children. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work.
But it's funny too, even to think about like, to say like at that age, to be like, yeah, if you don't have kids, don't have kids. You don't
Yeah.
want to get married, don't get like, that's fine. But also I can see because even my mom, of course, before she was gone, she would just be like, oh, but I want like great grandbabies. And I'm like, well, too bad. You're not getting them. It's like you got grandbabies. You're not getting great grandbabies, like they don't want to have kids.
Enjoy them. Enjoy
Yeah,
them even more.
enjoy them. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
But it's that quota thing is interesting though, Donna. It's an interesting way to think about that,
mhm.
right? Because I can kind of feel that when you say it too. It's like I do feel like I'm kind of coming out of. I mean, there's definitely days with the kids where I'm like,
Yeah.
quota's done.
Yeah.
Like that's when I'll go like do my puzzle. I'm gonna do my puzzle.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. But just even in general too, like, and from a bigger picture life perspective, like, yeah, I'm kind of, because even from a business perspective, like I've said this for years now, like I don't have the hustle in me
No,
anymore,
I don't
you
either.
know.
I can't work the way I don't want
There's
to.
no, I can't. But still for a few years, I was like, oh, I should, oh, I
Mhm.
whatever, oh, I got to get back into that. And now it's like, no,
Well, I built myself
no.
into an agency I didn't want.
Oh, yes. Yep.
And, I was at the point where I had finished up with some clients, and I had 3 clients waiting to be onboarded,
Yeah.
ch sizable checks in hand,
Yeah.
and I was like, "I can't do this.
Mm,
I don't wanna do this."
yeah.
And, I just deconstructed my business, and I'm building it back in a way that feels sustainable to me. And
Yeah.
the thing is it's all the same work.
Ooh, just done differently.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
refresh, you know?
Yeah. So you're still doing, because even that's such an interesting thing to consider too, like when we were talking about reinvention
Mhm,
earlier, like just that idea of I had a session with a client earlier this week where this is what we were all about. She was in the space of like, I'm tired of this. I've been doing this. I've been doing that. I'm tired. I want to up level. I want to do something different. I want to work with better clients. I want to get paid more, like all of that
yeah.
kind of stuff. And it was interesting to be like, where we landed, it wasn't something new for her
Mhm.
to do. It was more of like, it was almost like peeling a banana
Yeah.
in a way. Like, okay, let's peel this off. Don't do this piece anymore. Let's peel this off.
Mhm.
Let's peel this off. And then it's like, oh, this is already here. Okay, great. Let's go
Yeah.
with it. And that's such an interesting thing too, that I think, again, any age, but especially as we come into our 50s,
Mhm.
is like, what do I want to, what do I want to peel off my banana?
Yeah.
That's a weird, that's not the best analogy. There's probably a better analogy out there.
How about we say, "What do I wanna do? What do I not wanna do?"
Yeah, because well, there is that too, though, like agency. Because I'm like you. I had an agency years ago now. That was
Mhm,
probably 15 years ago now,
mhm,
and that was fine. But even over the years, there's been so many times, of course, where people are like, even back when I started my OBM certification,
mhm,
that was kind of the options at the time. It was like you could either create an agency and train up OBMs and have all these OBMs that work for you, and then they work for clients and yada yada
mhm,
yada, or and one of my top values is empowerment. So I'm like, or, I can train and certify people to create, a livelihood, a business in the same way that I've been
mhm,
able to. That was a very
mhm,
cool thing to be able to
mhm.
do. And so, yeah, like the agency route, the I'm going to grow an empire, the I'm going to launch, I'm going to go ahead, sure. There's a season maybe for that. And, or for some folks, it's the thing to do, but
Well,
no.
there's different ways to do it, you know?
Yeah.
It
I
doesn't
just don't
need to
wanna work
be.
that hard. I don't wanna work that hard
Yeah,
anymore. I really
I know.
don't.
I don't either, and I never liked the whole launch process, like, to sit down and write 40 emails. It felt so phony to me, And, because
Yeah.
this is what we were told we have to do, and then build them into Infusionsoft and, like,
Oh
make me
gosh.
wanna remove my own head.
There was years ago, I was at a mastermind, and the
Mhm,
the folks that led the mastermind, they had just come out of doing, like, a great big seven-figure launch. This was probably, I don't know, 8 years ago or something now. It was a
mhm,
while ago. But I remember going into this, this weekend, it was like a 2-day thing, and yeah, and I got my notebook because they just, like, opened it up and shared every little thing they did about everything, right?
mhm,
So I'm like, my notebook, "Oh, yes, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this big," and I'm madly taking notes, and I'm all this
mhm.
stuff. And then that night, the friend of mine that I was rooming with, I remember looking at this. I'm like, no, I'm not doing
Not
that.
doing any of this.
Yeah. I'm like, it's too much. It's too much work. It's too much
Yeah,
whatever. I'm just like, no. And it was funny because I actually lost that notebook,
that's so
which is
you weren't
unusual.
meant to do
Like,
that.
well,
Yeah, I
there
mean,
was a
and
hint.
I think what people forget because you get caught up in that, right? There's like a momentum to it, and then, you see
Totally.
other people do it, but, you don't really see what other people are doing because you don't see that they put
Yeah.
$100,000 into that launch,
Oh,
or
that
they
was,
yeah.
yeah. They had this
And
amazing seven-figure launch, but they probably
yeah,
spent like 800 of it on
yeah,
team and affiliate,
yeah,
and they were working, and it was
and
like
they
a
were
20
working on it for 6 months, it's half of their year
oh,
working
all
on it.
kinds of stuff. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
was just
and
like, "No, like, I don't wanna work that hard, and I also don't want my team to
yeah,
like, that's not the
exactly,
culture I wanna have on my team
exactly. I mean,
either."
like, I have always been trying to be my own client, and I'm
Mm,
finally at a point where I'm achieving this, and I've always told my clients, like, "Well, before you start building anything, what do you really need?" You know?
yeah.
You need 10 clients, you need 20 clients, you need 500 clients. Figure that out first and then work backwards. And
Mm,
that's what I did, because if you need like a lot of small businesses, what do you need? 20 clients a year? You don't need all of that for 20 clients a year. If you need to connect with 20 people, you need to be in front of 1,000. So what are you
yeah,
going to do to get in front of 1,000 people? You don't need
yeah,
all of that. You don't need to spend 6 months working on all of that to get in front of 1,000 people.
yeah, absolutely.
And it can be so much simpler, and then you
Yeah.
can really build relationships because, it's a much smaller audience. I love Seth Godin has a blog post called Almost No One,
Mm,
and he talks about, only needing to, connect with your smallest viable audience, and he ends that with,
okay.
who's your almost no one?
Oh, I like that a lot.
So
I really like that.
you find your almost no one.
Yeah.
I'll add the link to it,
Yeah,
in the chat. Um,
that's
but it's
great.
one of my favorite blog posts. I have it written into my presentations because, I mean, start there.
Well, and it's really the opposite of how we're taught to think in the
Yeah,
entrepreneurial world, because we are
yeah,
taught to think more, 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 more. Oh, I got this. Okay, now I got to have this. Oh, now I got to have this. Now I got to have
yeah,
that. Now I got to grow. This is where I'm
yeah.
supposed to go next. I got to scale. I got to whatever. I got to blah,
Yes,
blah, blah, blah.
it's more and next, but,
Yeah, more
like
and next. Yeah, you're right. More and next. Whereas
yeah,
even just that concept of like almost no one, it's almost like what's the least
yeah,
I can do
yeah,
to make that, that's a
exactly.
whole like how does our schedule change? How does our business change? How does our experience of our business and our enjoyment of everything change if that's the question, right? Like what's the
Yeah,
least
yeah.
I can do here to reach this goal
Yes,
that I've
and
set? I like that a lot, Donna.
that's the approach I'm taking now,
That's
and
yeah, I like that a
because
lot.
we don't need a whole lot.
No. I really that's exactly it. Like, I actually don't need a whole lot at this
Mhm.
point. But
Well,
similar to you, it's like I know, like, if I have a couple of clients I'm working with a month doing like, different things, it might vary from like depending on the work we're doing together. But it's like if I had two-ish clients a month, I'm good.
mhm,
I don't, and nor at this point do I don't have anything group. I don't have anything like that anymore. I cut all that stuff out a couple of years ago too, where it's like that's another thing I've come back to is I've circled back to like doing private one-on-one work
mhm,
with people because I really enjoy that. Like I know that's where I do some of my best work. I am a very good trainer. I'm a very good writer. I know that. But some of my best work with people is in that like one-on-one container
yeah,
of some kind.
yeah,
And so I've also circled back to that and just because it really is the easier thing too.
mhm, yeah,
Like I don't need to launch to get a one-on-one client. I mean, I still got to
yeah,
show up and do things. I can't just
yeah,
be sitting in the corner, but I also just and then the work itself I find so enjoyable too because it's not like, oh, I got to prep and oh, I got to whatever and I got to go create these things and I got to it's like no, just show up. Like that's another thing I think is true at this point. It's like, we're 50 in our 50s and or over and it's like okay we there's something about owning the experience that we have at this
yeah,
point too like I
yeah,
know a lot, I've had experience, I've got and that's got value
yeah,
as well, right?
yeah.
Not like I gotta go whatever before I can
No,
do all these other things.
no, and that's another thing that I really owned over this last year is that, um, everything that got me to this point, and this is true for everybody, not just for
Mhm.
me, but everything that got me to this point is what made me who I am, and that's
Yes,
what needs to be shared because that's my story.
yeah,
And that's what will
So
build trust with
true.
people, that's what builds credibility,
Totally.
because I've been around, you know? I've done this once or 20 times, and, like, experience from like, I really went back and I looked back to my law firm days, like the 1990s, 1980s. What did I do then that is
Yeah.
still relevant now? And there's a lot. There is a lot because that's where I learned critical thinking. That's where I learned, how to, stand out from like a mass of people that were doing the same thing. And that's no different than this. Like
True.
there,
Yep.
there, there are strategies and things that you can do, that aren't any different that I did 40 years ago, So I really am confident in saying I bring 40 years of experience to whatever it is that I'm doing.
Yes.
And that's some master level shit right there.
It is some master level shit right there. Yeah. It really,
And
it really
we're all at that space. I mean, like, just think of all of the things that you've done. I mean, you created a whole entire way
Yep.
of working.
Yeah, and I have my moments where it's like, I can get caught up in that still, right? Where it's like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, but I don't know that. I haven't done this. I don't know that.
Yeah,
It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
yeah,
Like, let's take a look over here too, you know, with that.
yeah,
There really is something to own around all
yeah,
that.
there really is. So we have actually, chatted through a half an hour. I have, one question that I really did wanna ask you, though, because I know that you have a really interesting perspective on this. How do you view leadership?
I mean, leadership is just empowering others. That's really all it is at the end of the day. When I talk about when I teach leadership, there's four areas. It's like there's self leadership, team. We lead our business, we lead our clients. Like there's different areas of leadership, but ultimately, leadership is just and I do a lot of work at this moment too, and that's part of the book is around team leadership. And I've been working with more and more clients in that area recently, and it ultimately is like, how do I lead my team so that they are more empowered to then show up and do their best work. I mean, because that's ultimately what we want as a team leader, too, is like, I want people to show up and bring their best and, do their best, take ownership, make things happen, move things forward, etc. That's part of what we're looking for. So it really is like leadership is ultimately about empowerment. And
Mhm.
even when we lead others effectively, we're ultimately empowering ourselves too. It's yeah, there's some really interesting aspects to leadership. I also think leadership is ultimately that's the personal growth journey of business for a lot of us. I heard somebody talk about that concept years ago, Donna, where it's like business is one of the best personal growth journeys out there, which
Mhm.
I totally agree with.
Yeah,
And I'm like a self-help junkie. I got
yeah,
books, I've been to courses, I've done all that stuff over the years. I love that stuff. But the personal development piece of to become a better leader in various ways. I mean, ultimately that's becoming a better us. I'm
yeah,
becoming the best version of myself
yeah,
when I become a better leader. And the trickle down effect of that allows others to also become, and you create a space where they can step into and
yeah.
be the best version of themselves too. So it's a very
I
symbiotic relationship in a
Yeah,
lot of ways. You can't be a great leader on your own. I mean, you can lead yourself, but you're not going to be a great team leader like by yourself. You need, you need
you
team.
need people to lead.
Yeah.
Um, well, that's beautiful. I really like the way that you talk about that. I always have. And, anything else you wanna share before we wrap up?
I mean, just even like as we've been talking today, just that idea of like give ourselves permission to build our business, build our lives around what we want, like
Mhm.
we don't have to wait for that. We don't have to wait until, I mean, we can, when you're 50, I think it kind of comes up and kicks us in the butt, anyways,
Yeah,
if we
yeah,
haven't already done it at this point. But it really is like, yes, there's work to be done. And yes, it takes time. And yes, it can be harder than you think and all of that. This isn't to say something's just going to land in your lap and you're never going to have to break a sweat about anything. But like, let's ultimately build what we want. Like your agency example, it's like, ew, I don't want this.
yeah.
Like, no, let's build something that we really want for ourselves. And then when we do that, we get to show up and do our best work for our
Mhm.
clients, for our team, and we actually get to create something that we want. So
Yeah,
that's something that's really important. to
Yeah,
me.
it is. I'm so much happier now than I was,
Yeah,
because I
that's
just felt
awesome.
like it was too much weight, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today. And, connect
Thanks.
with Tina at tinaforsyth.com. You can connect with her on the 50 over 50, the Real 50 over 50 webpage and on the socials. So thank you, Tina. And we'll be back next week, Wednesday, noon. We have 5 interviews in May. So thank you for coming, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.